30 days ago, I committed to doing what I ask my clients to do every day, which is to stop overthinking and start posting. For the last month, I shared content 30 days in a row while building my business in public. Some posts performs better than others. There wasn't a viral sensation to be had in any of those posts, and I did not land a flood of new clients. I walked away from that experience knowing that it was the most important thing I could have done for my business and for this journey that I'm on. And the biggest lessons from those 30 days are what I'm here to talk to you about. So this was about content creation, and this is really about Gabber Media and what we do. So I want to give you the 5 things, my 5 biggest takeaways from posting 30 days in a row. Number 1, what was hard was surprising. I thought that I would have no problem just grabbing my phone and talking directly into the camera. That actually was one of the more difficult things to do. I ended up scripting a majority of what I was saying, just like I scripted that intro there. And I wasn't expecting that. I thought I would be able to just kind of riff and have a spreadsheet and have an idea, and then I would be able to pick up my camera and just go. And no, that did not happen. So I actually ended up scripting. Well, I kind of came up with what I wanted to talk about, like the 30 days. I wrote them all out and identified some pain points. And then as I kept going, what I found out is I was encountering my own problems. So like one of the first things that was happening is, I couldn't just freewheel my conversation in front of the camera. That was weird. I did not expect that, especially having a performance background and doing 10 years of podcasting. I thought a camera's a camera, a mic is a mic. But no, actually, when I started talking about content creation, I started to clam up a little bit. I was losing my personality. I was losing the me in it all and really starting to sound just like everybody else. So I went back to scripting. So at least I knew what I was saying was correct. But I wasn't expecting that. That did get better as the days went on, and I am forcing myself to do things like this, go live. And by doing that, my hope is my comfort level and the trust that I'm building with you builds. So that is one of the things that we're doing there. Number 2 of my big takeaways from 30 days of consistently posting online was being consistent exposed more than any theory ever could. So being consistent exposed more than any theory ever could. I think not only did it expose the camera and I, we have a relationship that we're working on, but also my communication en masse. I was like, I thought I knew how to talk about this. And then you start talking about it. And because it was my first experience outside of like podcasting or talking to people in closed spaces and small rooms, it was my first time talking to the mic, talking to the camera. And when that happened, I definitely had that moment of like, whoa, do I know what I'm talking about? Or do I know what other people are saying and I'm trying to say it too? And that was really humbling. That was one of those moments where I was like, okay, do you have your own thoughts on content creation, or are you just literally saying what everybody else is saying? And I was like, oh, no, I actually do have my own thoughts on content creation. I have my own thoughts on all of this. But when you first begin, I love stand-up, and I love hearing stand-ups tell stories about the first time that they did stand-up. And it always sounds something like, oh, I was a big fan of this comic, and the first time I did stand-up, I sounded exactly like that stand up and I looked at some of the first things that I was posting about content creation, and they all sound like the people that I'm watching around content creation. And I think I wouldn't have been able to see that without actually doing it. And if you're out there with your business and your business podcast and you haven't started yet, or you might be one episode deep, that might be something that you encounter as well. And I think the thing is, we can't help but express the voices of our influence. Like, there isn't a single person in the content creation space that doesn't have a take on Gary Vee. I'm very pro. But there isn't somebody who will say something he has said, whether in context or out of context, and they'll use his advice as their own advice, because it becomes like the bedrock of advice. So I think what I'm really going for with that is, by saying other people's things, it exposed, like, I need to be sharing more of my own ideas. Like, hey, you need to put yourself in a position to win. You need to put yourself in a position where this is easy for you. Like, those are more of my thoughts than post as much as you can on all the platforms. Like, Gary Vee can say that. A beginner like me can't say that because I am just starting to do it. So that is one of those things that really came to light during this. Number 3, being vulnerable is indispensable, and speaking to where you are will get the best results. So if you aren't willing to share yourself, it isn't going to be as fun. Yeah, the first 10 days, I would say, of the experience were a little bit rough. Number 1, because they were very scripted. And number 2 is that what I realized is that I was very much losing myself. Like, I am really talking to you at this moment. And although it might be serious in tone, I also can be fun. And fun is part of this. Like, this is content creation. Like, this is fun. Like, there is an aspect of fun to it. It can be helpful. It can be serious in theme when it needs to be. I can be serious when I need to be. But, like, if you're not willing to show yourself inside of the content that you're creating, then you're going to have a bad time. And you're not going to do it for long. And at 10 days, I was just like, man, I really needed to do this a lot sooner, because I don't know if I want to do this. And then I was like, no, you do. You really do. But you don't want to do it like this. You do not want to continue in, this is a drag. This is a bummer. This is a hard time. Or I'm always looking for subjects to talk about. Like, in actually doing that, and kind of going back to 2, the consistency, exposing things, it exposed this vulnerability that I needed to have, because I'm scrolling. I'm streaming this right now as a live stream on TikTok, and not TikTok, on Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram. And why I'm doing that is because I'm really working on a natural delivery, like the more consistent, who's Matt and what does Matt actually sound like when he's talking about these things. And, like, to do that, I have to drop the airs and not be the expert in this moment. I'm presenting what is the expertise that I have from the past 30 days, not the expertise of somebody who's created lead generators that lead to small events or conversion events that have turned into revenue. Like, I'm not there yet. I'm at where I'm trying to help people with, which is start. Like, the starting and the get your podcast off the ground, or understand that in creating a podcast, whether it be a solo podcast like this one, where you're just telling people your discoveries, or you're telling people, hey, you might be in a position where you don't feel like you can share your whole self. But I think, and I learned through this 30 days, is that you need to be able to share as much of yourself as you're willing to give in order for you to have the biggest breakthroughs and the biggest reward for yourself. Because if you feel like you're holding something back, you're going to look back on what you've done and say, wow, I regret not allowing myself to go there. This is not to say that your privacy isn't important. You don't know me. You don't know me yet. We're working on it. But like, I have a family, and my wife wants nothing to do with social media, and I love her for it. And my daughter is not able to make these decisions for herself yet, so I don't bring her into any of my content, because that's my choice of how we're going to handle that until she's older. So there's always things that are in your life that are private, but the parts of me that I need to bring to your content creation journey, my content creation journey, need to be all of me. This was probably my biggest breakthrough in all of this was, and maybe you have this as well in your life, if you have a job, and I worked in corporate America for 20 years, you may be in a situation where you can't bring yourself to work. You can bring the part of you to that job that's the part of you that needs to do that job. And although there might be little leaks and cracks of your actual personality every once in a while, you might be guarding some of that because you feel that that's yours. And I can tell you that was absolutely my story. Like, I worked in an office and I did all of the corporate things. And I really held myself back from being more fun because of my preconceived notion of what I needed to be like in an office. And at the same time, in my personal life, I was doing a lot of creative endeavors. I was an improviser. I was out there performing. And you might have your thing where it's like, I have a group of friends, and one of my friends, Eric, he is software engineer by day, and then a lot more computer scientist. So please don't be offended from my lack of knowledge of job descriptions, but like much more computer science minded, but then has a group of friends, and they like to do Dungeons and Dragons, and that's what they do. And that's their thing. But I don't think he's at his job talking about Dungeons and Dragons all the time. Well, in content creation for your business, yeah, I think it's probably important to bring some of that world into your world so you can show up as a full person. And I definitely was not doing that. And that was a big learning point for me. The other part of that vulnerability was admitting when something didn't work. If you're on YouTube, you can find YouTube videos that I made late last year, or around October of last year. And they're all along the lines of like why creating over 40 is a great idea, and why 5 reasons you're not, 5 excuses that you don't need anymore. And although this is like 5 biggest takeaways, just because that's kind of like a common format, like this is much more real than any of those videos were. And the reason why is because I can actually be a lot more vulnerable now and be like, I thought that's what I had to say. I thought those videos were the videos that you have to make. And they weren't bad, but they definitely weren't me. And I think that is more of what I'm finding out. It's like, who am I? What do I have to say? Like, why don't we say that? So being vulnerable, it's indispensable, and speak to where you are so that you get the best result. I am not obviously at 1 million views, 100,000 followers, this, that, and the other. And I'm fine with that. I would much rather be like, hey, this is actually where I am, and this is what I'm doing to do more and to get better results and to build trust with an audience. That's actually what I need to be doing right now, rather than fronting like I have all of these great 5 tips for, how to consistently post content when I've never done it until just now. Cool. So yeah, being vulnerable and being like, hey, this is where I made mistakes and where I'm learning and where I'm growing. Number 4, it's easier to have perspective in hindsight. It is easier to have some perspective in hindsight. And what I mean by that is when you start creating, and like the 30 days is just much more of a personal challenge, a kickstart, a way to get me going. And at the same time, in that 30 days, you do get to a couple of points where you're like, boy, am I even good at this? And then you might see a video get, talking to my YouTube audience, you might get 500 views on a short, and you're like, that one was a great one. And then the next one will be 23. And you're like, oh no. Oh no, I boofed it. It's all over for me. At that time, it's hard not to have that feeling. But in hindsight, if I was talking to 23 people right now in a room, I would be like, man, this is a great turnout. This is amazing. And yes, I know the 23 people that count as a view may not have watched the whole 1 minute short or the 1 minute reel. But at the same time, 23 people got to see this for a few seconds, and some of them chose to stay. And if that was 5 of them, 2 of them, 1 of them, it's way more people than I was talking to when I didn't talk to anybody and it was all in here. And it was me and ChatGPT just going back and forth. So hindsight is easier to have, or perspective, is easier to have in hindsight. At the moment, have the feelings, feel them, let them go. And it'll be a lot better for you. It was definitely a lot better for me when I realized I've been in a room with 10 people and 10 people have felt like, when it's the right 10 people, especially like when it's like your audience that's for you, that can't wait to do business with you, then it's like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what I'm here for. This is what I want to do. Number five, a little bit, you got to throw one of these in here. AI is helpful until it isn't. And I know everybody is talking about AI, and AI is a big deal. And I love using AI, and AI is incredibly helpful. But AI will do 2 things. So I did use scripting from AI during this process. I gave it a lot of my thoughts, but a lot of the things at the beginning, especially that I didn't feel were necessarily reflective of who I was, a lot of that did come from AI, and I still use AI to help me with things and for formatting, especially when it comes to hooks, because hooks are something that I'm working on all the time. And if you're not sure what a hook is the thing that grabs your attention at the beginning of a video. Well, when you don't know how to do that, AI can be incredibly helpful. But then what you realize is that AI will grammatically and formatically use the same things over and over. So you'll want to have a point on you not needing the best gear to get started, using what you have to get started. And you'll ask for a script from AI. And the first time that you do a script from AI, you're like, this is great. I love this. This is helpful. This is super helpful. Then it's the second script. And you start to see like, how come everything becomes not this, not that, not the other? Or this is the thing that nobody talks about. It's like, I don't think I've ever said those words, like, I don't think that's really authentic of me to say, like, and that's the part nobody talks about. The part that nobody talks about is that there's lots of parts that nobody talks about. Like, and that's why there's opportunity for you in your space, is because there's so much that people don't talk about. I did improv comedy for 20 years. There's so many things about improv I can talk about that nobody talks about. And a lot of people would find them very interesting, but then you'll talk to other improvisers and they'll be like, ugh, enough. It's just sometimes when you're making the thing, it isn't, you don't understand how interesting some parts can be to other people. So I think I went on a pretty big tangent there, but like, AI is super helpful, but you need to be in control of what you're saying over a longer period of time. You need to have your own ideas. You need to have your own feedback. You need to have your own results, because AI is always going to be pulling from what's already been done. It can't pull from what you're doing. So there we go. Those are the 5 biggest takeaways that I had from posting 30 days in a row. My final thoughts on it are, if you're considering doing it, I would love to be of help to you. You can write a comment or send me a DM. If I'm on a platform that allows you to DM, I would love to talk to you about that. Give you any advice that you want. But I would say that the big thing is just rip the Band-Aid off and go. Number 2 is that not every platform will be for you. Like, what I've discovered is that LinkedIn is great for reigniting your existing network, but discovery on LinkedIn is a little bit more difficult. And really, if I think about all the stuff that I've watched by Gary Vee, I think like he had this theory about the 2 cents theory, which is go to things that are related in your field and leave your comments on people's articles and people's posts about those things. I think LinkedIn is like perfect for that, because discovery on LinkedIn is a little bit difficult. Not impossible, just more difficult. And the more that you interact with your network and grow your network and interact, that's where I think it can be the most helpful. But I would say just like posting 30 days in a row, although did get me more exposure and did get me more profile views, it didn't necessarily increase the dialogue yet. I'm not giving up on LinkedIn, but I think something like this, where I give my top 5 thoughts, is after doing the thing, is where I'm going to be focusing my LinkedIn energy. My LinkedIn energy is going to be more on reporting out on the things I've done, rather than giving blanket, you need to do this results. Like, I would rather that wait until I have more social proof, where it's like, because it's the kind of thing, if I come into your house, I'm like, there's an easier way to do that. And you're like, who are you and why are you in my house? So like, rather show the things that I've done in a little bit of a longer blog way, and gain discovery that way through LinkedIn, rather than focusing on posting the daily things on LinkedIn. I think that lives better and tracks better on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, because I am reusing the same content. And it's really because with AI and YouTube, I think eventually you're going to need to be on YouTube with your shorts. But I digress. We can talk strategy at another point in time. So 30 days in a row. Am I going to continue posting 30 days in a row? This is a great question that I didn't answer yet. No. And I'm still going to be posting, but I'm going to be focusing on Monday through Friday, and then taking the weekend to put things together for the week so that I can have stronger weekly content rather than trying to go every single day when Saturday and Sunday are. I think if I do post on Saturdays and Sundays, it'll just be less often. It will not be part of my plan and procedure and my operating system. I think it would just be much more of a special occasion system. Well, thank you for joining me. I enjoy you being here with me. I hope you're having the best day that you can possibly have. And check out the comments and, like follow me if you're not following me. And like and subscribe. And have a great day. We'll see you soon.